From a crude armored tractor, the United States created its first steel creature, and it opened the door to a tank empire that would make the world tremble. This is the story of American tanks. Beginning with World War I with the early CLB-75 of the interwar period. When the United States entered World War I with almost no clear understanding of what a tank truly was, the CLB-75 emerged as a temporary solution. At its core, it was merely a tractor wrapped in steel armor, resembling a mobile container more than a weapon of war. Though a failure, it marked the moment when tank thinking first took shape in the United States. Soon after, American engineers attempted to solve traction problems with an ambitious gasoline-electric hybrid design. The idea was ahead of its time, but excessive weight and complexity made it impractical for real battlefield conditions. Despite its failure, it demonstrated America's willingness to explore bold and unconventional paths from the very beginning. To overcome Europe's wide trench systems, the skeleton tank was created with an almost hollow design. Its long, lightweight steel frame looked strange, as if most of the vehicle was made of air. In reality, its unique appearance could not compensate for a lack of stability and reliability. In contrast to these bizarre concepts, the Ford 3-ton M1918 returned to a simple philosophy: small, cheap, and mass-produced. Often compared to the Model T of tanks, it aimed to overwhelm the enemy through numbers. The war ended too soon, but the concept of industrial-scale warfare had been firmly planted. When a truly serviceable tank was needed, the United States chose the safe route by copying France's Renault FT design. The M1917 was not glamorous, but reliable enough to become the backbone of a fledgling armored force. This marked the transition from experimentation to practical operation. The culmination of this phase was the Mark 8 Liberty, a massive joint Anglo-American effort designed to cross any trench. Long and imposing, it fulfilled its intended role, but at the cost of severe transportation and logistical nightmares. It closed the early experimental era with a clear lesson: bigger was not always better. After a series of scattered experiments, the M1921 represented America's first serious attempt to establish a standardized tank design. Its fully rotating turret introduced a modern layout, clearly separating firepower from mobility. Though only a technical success, it laid the groundwork for most later designs. Building on the M1921, the M1922 attempted to improve ride quality through an extremely complex cable-based suspension system. In theory, it promised smoother operation, but in practice it turned maintenance into a nightmare. This failure taught engineers that simplicity often matters more than sophistication. As mobility demands increased, the T1 light tank was developed with a clear emphasis on speed. Light and fast, it suited reconnaissance roles but sacrificed armor protection. Its limited success helped the U.S. understand the true cost of mobility. Walter Christie presented a bold vision with the T1 Christie, capable of running on both tracks and wheels. On roads, its speed was astonishing for the time, but the unconventional design made the U.S. Army cautious. Though rejected domestically, the concept spread rapidly across the world. Seeking greater firepower, the T2 Medium appeared with a heavy, box-like hull carrying a main gun and multiple machine guns. Excessive weight and poor performance rendered it ineffective. This failure closed the chapter on medium designs rooted in outdated thinking. To bypass legal restrictions, the M1 light tank was labeled a combat car rather than a tank. Light, fast, and suited for reconnaissance, it reflected the doctrinal confusion of U.S. armor at the time. Its limited success showed that terminology could not replace clear strategy. The M2 light tank represented an effort to standardize after years of chaotic experimentation. Moving away from awkward multi-turret designs, it gradually stabilized around a more practical single-turret layout. Its success directly paved the way for the famous Stuart series. With the T4 Medium, the U.S. once again pursued speed using Christie suspension. On hard surfaces it showed promise, but mud quickly erased any advantage. This failure emphasized that speed cannot be separated from real battlefield conditions. The T7 combat car was an extreme experiment prioritizing high speed through wheeled mobility. It performed well on flat terrain but lacked flexibility and adaptability as conditions changed. The project reinforced the idea that tanks could not simply be fast vehicles. The N2 medium resembled a hedgehog, with machine guns pointing in all directions, reflecting fears of enemy infantry. While not an outstanding combat vehicle, it offered important lessons in firepower layout and medium tank roles. From here, the concept of the medium tank became clearer. Closing the interwar period, the CTLS was developed as a quick, cheap, and easy-to-produce solution primarily for export. It lacked power but was reliable enough during wartime preparation. Its limited success showed that quantity and rapid fielding also had value in emergencies. As global war erupted, the M3 Stuart became a rapid answer to the need for mobile reconnaissance. Light, reliable, and easy to operate, it earned the affectionate nickname Honey from British crews. Its success established early war standards for light tanks. Attempting to increase firepower on a small chassis, the MTLS-1G14 tested the idea of mounting twin cannons in a single turret. The unusual design proved complex and impractical in combat. Its failure highlighted clear limits to firepower concentration. Developed mainly for export markets, the CTMS featured a light design and small crew. However, it failed to find a clear role within U.S. service. This project ended hopes that exports could serve as a quick armored solution. Before the Sherman was ready, the M3 Lee and Grant served as interim solutions to field a large-caliber gun as soon as possible. Mounting the main gun in the hull gave it a tall, awkward profile, but the firepower was desperately needed by the Allies. Clumsy though it was, it fulfilled a critical bridging role. The Sherman was not the most powerful tank, but it was the right tank at the right time. Simple design, high reliability, and mass production turned it into the backbone of Allied armored forces. This was where America's philosophy of industrial warfare reached full strength. Facing German heavy tanks, the U.S. attempted to enter the heavy tank arena with the M6. Its massive size quickly clashed with bridge limits and logistical realities. This failure cast deep doubt on the value of pure heavy tanks. Originally intended to create a more powerful light tank, the T7 and M7 grew beyond expectations during development. The resulting vehicles no longer fit their intended role. Cancellation reflected the danger of losing design focus. While the Sherman dominated the battlefield, the T20, T22, and T23 quietly tested modern drivetrains and layouts. Though never mass-produced, their true value lay in experience gained. From here, the path toward the Pershing began. The M5 Stuart represented the final refinement of a proven light tank lineage. With new engines, it ran smoother and more reliably, extending the Stuart's service life. It demonstrated that proper upgrades could outperform entirely new designs. Designed to support airborne forces, the M22 Locust was small enough to be carried by glider. Once on the ground, its thin armor revealed its vulnerability. Though only marginally successful, it provided key lessons in airborne armor. The T-14 Heavy was a joint U.S. British project aimed at creating a breakthrough tank with exceptionally thick armor. On paper it promised assault leadership, but in practice mobility costs were too high. This cancellation reaffirmed that flexibility often outweighs armor thickness. When the Sherman could no longer match Tigers and Panthers, the M26 Pershing arrived as America's delayed response. With improved firepower and armor, it represented the first truly modern U.S. tank. Though too late to change the war, it laid the foundation for the Patton series. Unsatisfied with the standard Pershing, the U.S. pushed firepower limits with the Super Pershing. Its oversized gun unbalanced the vehicle and reduced practicality. The experiment proved that raw power also had limits. Designed to breach fortified defenses, the T-28 and T-95 were essentially mobile fortresses. With enormous weight and 4 tracks, they barely resembled conventional tanks. Their sluggishness marked the end of super heavy tank ambitions. Created to hunt the King Tiger, the T-29 carried a massive turret and formidable firepower. The war ended before combat deployment, but its true value lay elsewhere. Lessons from its design directly influenced Cold War tank projects. Parallel to the T-29, the T-30 tested an extremely large gun to maximize bunker-busting capability. While theoretically devastating, its bulk raised serious practicality concerns. It helped define reasonable limits for gun caliber. The T-32 can be seen as a thoroughly upgraded Pershing, with thicker armor and better long-range performance. Not revolutionary but technically solid, it guided the next generation of T-series tanks. Closing the early post-war heavy tank era, the T-34 mounted a modified anti-aircraft gun with impressive armor penetration. It represented the peak of classic heavy tank thinking. From here, focus shifted toward more balanced concepts. Cold War, Vietnam. Entering the Cold War, the M46 patent appeared as a direct improvement of the Pershing, addressing its shortcomings. With a stronger engine and better mobility, it became the first tank to bear the patent name. It bridged wartime thinking and new doctrine. While medium tanks evolved, the U.S. sought a new post-war reconnaissance vehicle. The T-41 prioritized speed and agility. Its success quickly led to a more famous production model. Derived from the T-41, the M41 Walker Bulldog became one of the most successful post-war light tanks. Highly mobile and easy to control, it was favored by crews and widely exported. Bulldog set the standard for light tanks for years. The M47 patent emerged as an emergency measure, combining a new turret with an older hull. Imperfect but adequate, it filled a critical gap. It reflected the urgency of early Cold War pressures. With the M48, the U.S. produced its first fully modern tank design. Rounded hull and turret improved protection, making it an icon of the Vietnam War era. The M48 marked true maturity of the American main battle tank concept. Alongside production models, the T-54 experimented with fitting heavy firepower onto a medium chassis. Theoretically attractive, it exposed clear limits in space and balance. Engineers learned every design has saturation points. The T-69 represented an early attempt at tank automation, featuring an oscillating turret and autoloader. Promising on paper, excessive complexity doomed it. The failure showed automation required the right technological moment. Amid airborne warfare interest, the T-92 was designed as a compact parachutable tank. Its futuristic look masked serious protection and firepower limits. Cancellation reflected abandonment of airborne tank concepts. The T-95 medium opened a new technological arena, testing modern materials and concepts such as composite armor. Not intended for mass production, it explored the future. From these tests, the road to Abrams became clear. Developed to counter Soviet heavy tanks, the M103 carried powerful firepower on a massive chassis. Limited success could not hide mobility and logistics issues. It marked the end of U.S. heavy tanks. Following the M103, the T-57 sought high firepower via an ambitious autoloading turret. While offering high rates of fire, instability plagued operations. It reinforced technological limits of the era. Pushing ambition further, the T-58 mounted an enormous gun for maximum firepower. Size and weight quickly exceeded acceptable limits. Its cancellation ended dreams of supergun tanks. The T-110 was the final attempt to shrink heavy tanks for practical deployment. This compact design posed technical challenges beyond the era's capabilities. Cancellation marked a decisive shift toward main battle tank doctrine. Modern future. After years of trial and error, the M60 series provided a stable answer to the main battle tank concept. Simple, durable, and upgradable, it served for decades in many variants. The M60 became the backbone of U.S. armor throughout much of the Cold War. Modern future. Alongside MBTs, the U.S. pursued airborne light tanks, and Sheridan was the clearest embodiment. Its aluminum hull and gun missile system enabled unique deployment, but fragility earned it the nickname, a soda can with a gun. Sheridan left hard lessons about excessive weight reduction. MBT-70 was Cold War science fiction, a joint U.S. German effort to build the tank of the future. Packed with unprecedented technology, ambition drove costs and complexity out of control. Its failure proved technology must align with practicality. After MBT-70 collapsed, XM-803 was proposed as a cheaper alternative. It sought to retain innovation while cutting excess. However, it could not escape its predecessor's shadow. The M62 Starship boldly attempted to turn tanks into missile launchers. Though flexible in theory, excessive complexity hurt field reliability. It showed immature technology can become a burden. All lessons converged in the M1 Abrams, redefining modern armored warfare. With turbine engine and superior protection, it combined speed, power, and survivability like never before. This was a true leap forward. While Abrams dominated MBTs, rapid deployment solutions remained of interest. The RDF-LT was compact, low-profile, and heavily armed for quick response. Though experimental, it reflected growing emphasis on strategic flexibility. HMAG served not as a combat vehicle but as a mobile suspension testbed. Designed for experimentation, lessons quietly influenced future platforms. For the Marine Corps, mobility and rapid deployment are paramount. The expeditionary tank envisioned a light tank with a concealed turret for remote deployment. Though not produced, it reflected evolving expeditionary thinking. Unlike military projects, Stingray was a private, export-focused initiative. It combined significant firepower with a light, mobile chassis. The success showed clear demand for modern light tanks. The M1A1 marked Abrams' first major upgrade, focusing on increased firepower. It became iconic during the Gulf War, demonstrating overwhelming dominance. Abrams was now the benchmark. The M1A2 ushered Abrams into the digital era, integrating sensors, data, and battlefield networks. Strong mechanically and digitally aware, it set modern tank standards. Developed to replace Sheridan, the M8 AGS featured modular armor tailored to missions. Despite flexibility, post-Cold War budgets ended the project. Its cancellation underscored fiscal realities of modern warfare. LAV-105 attempted to merge tank firepower with wheeled speed. Promising on roads, limits in stability and protection emerged quickly. It showed wheels could not replace tracks for tanks. Abrams TTB placed the crew deep in the hull with a remote unmanned turret. Ahead of its time, it pioneered crew protection concepts. Though experimental, it paved the way for unmanned tank ideas. The M1 CATB tested future firepower with large-caliber guns against new threats. Impressive but logistically heavy, it served as validation rather than long-term direction. XM202 fit a broader vision of network-centric warfare, where tanks became nodes in intelligent systems. Lightweight and highly connected, it reflected future battlefield concepts. Cancellation did not erase its vision. Griffin II combined strong firepower with a lighter, more mobile chassis. It proved modern light tanks still had relevance. Its success led directly to a new operational platform. The M10 Booker was developed to fill the long-standing gap between infantry and MBTs. Balancing mobility and firepower, it reflects a more flexible doctrine. It signals evolving American tank usage. Abrams X looks like science fiction, featuring hybrid electric propulsion and high automation. Lighter and more efficient, it hints at future tank development. Though experimental, it reveals Abrams' future direction. The M1E3 Abrams is the next step, focusing on weight reduction and survivability against modern threats such as UAVs and anti-tank missiles. Rather than rewriting rules, it refines proven concepts. This marks the closing chapter of over a century of American tank evolution.